Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Gittin page 13, which discusses the law that if you have a person that says, I want you to write a divorce document for my wife, so of course we'll do exactly that, we'll write it, but if that's all he said, that is not enough. He actually has to go and say, write it and give it, because maybe he's just asking for the get to be written, and he'll decide when he's good and ready to have it given, if ever. So the fact that he says, write my wife a get, that in itself is not enough. He actually has to say, write it and give it, and then only afterwards is it able to be given. However, it's discussed over here that what happens if you have a man who is literally going out in chains, which means he's about to be sentenced to death. Or for that matter, imagine that during these very dangerous times, he was about to go in a caravan in a desert, which was considered to be extremely dangerous, or to cross the seas, which there's a very good chance also that a person may not make it back alive. So in those situations, as well as if a person is literally on their deathbed, the law is brought down, at least according to different opinions, that if all they did was say, write for my wife a get. So the law is that we will not only write the get, but we'll also have it given over to her as well. The question is why? All he did was say write it. He didn't say to give it. So we say that we have to look at the present situation. And this person is under great level of duress. He's very stressed. He's moments from either dying or about to go on a very, very dangerous trip. So he's obviously not at a totally great frame of mind. And therefore, even though maybe normally he knows the laws that you have to say write and give it, in this situation he didn't because he's not in a total great frame of mind. In addition to that, we look at the situation. Why is he mentioning this as he's literally in the throes of death, or he's about to be sentenced to death, he's about to be hung or something? Obviously, he doesn't want this get just to be sitting around and delayed. He wants his wife to get divorced, because once his wife is divorced, there's no laws of yibum. Let's say they didn't have children. So technically, she would have to end up marrying this man's brother, which is one of the laws we've discussed in previous Gemara, in Masachet Yevamos. So it's very obvious what he's trying to do here. He wants his wife to get divorced. So in that situation, what we do is we say, okay, fine, we'll write it and we will give it. So what do we see from here? We see that even though a lot of things are black and white, things are obvious. Okay, this is the law, but we also have to, when you are looking as to what the law is, you have to look at an individual case-by-case basis, because every situation could be different. Just because a person says write a get doesn't mean in all situations that's all what his intentions were. We have to understand the reason behind the words, which is also true when it comes to a person who learns at great length to the point that they have the ability to answer questions as to how one should conduct themselves in Jewish law. It's not enough just to hear a question, but you need to be able to understand the entirety of the situation and understand the person. And just because you hear, oh, this rabbi answered such and such for this person, does not mean that will be necessarily the same answer for a different person, even though it's seemingly the same question. But there's a lot of other factors that need to be considered. But again, what do we see from here? We see the great sensitivity that the sages have, as we see so many other times, that when it comes to a woman who potentially could end up not receiving her divorce document, which could be potentially disastrous for the rest of her life, being an aguna or not being able to get remarried. So in this, the rabbis are able to dig a little bit deeper and understand the real intentions of this person, and therefore she will become divorced.